a point that Flint raised, which is, I think, very important, and since we're here in New York to bring it up, is the question of the reaction within the United States, and is there going to be a growing divergence between Pennsylvania Avenue and Wall Street? I think Wall Street doesn't have as much problems with the GCC being the world's banker and investor, and in fact may want to help in how the GCC chooses to invest. But how that will be playing out on Pennsylvania Avenue and Capitol Hill, because whether the GCC will want to work with Wall Street if Capitol Hill wants to sue OPEC, may decide that maybe they don't need Wall Street's help. And to the extent that Wall Street may become more involved in how this debate takes out in Washington. Because in a lot of these issues, particularly the U.S.-Russia relationship, but in a number of these other things, Wall Street has essentially ceded policy to Capitol Hill, even at the expense, perhaps, of some of their interests. That may change. Two things for the administration, the next administration, again, whether Republican or Democrat. Increasingly, I don't think that the position that the U.S. can essentially determine the global order and just needs to make slight modifications to appease the Europeans and a few others is going to fly. I think we're going to have to reopen and have much more honest dialogues. Again, the reaction to the recent Sino-American dialogue in Annapolis on the Hill is not encouraging, in that the executive branch seem to be more willing to talk about a number of issues, but Capitol Hill hasn't caught up. The other thing is the willingness of the United States to let other countries do things as their resources increase. I was struck by the almost complete lack of coverage in Washington on the recent IBSA maneuvers. For those of you not familiar, this is the India, Brazil, South Africa multilateral arrangement. They would like to begin playing a much greater role in patrolling the South Atlantic and the Indian Ocean. On the one hand, Congress always complains about all the free riders and freeloaders, all these countries that don't do anything, and the U.S. has to take up this burden. But on the other hand, the U.S. also is usually in the position that it likes to be the best man at every wedding and the gravedigger at every funeral. And if you have a situation where other countries are not actively opposing the United States, but saying, we don't really want you to be involved, or we're going to take on more responsibilities, I don't know how that will play out, and again, we'll see how a new administration handles with it. For those of you who have been seeing somewhat of what I've been writing, my concern is that there is still very much an attitude in Washington of reset, that this election is to reset back to 2000 or to 1992, that all you need to do is get rid of George Bush, and then the world says, George Bush is gone, we can go back to the way it was prior to 2000, or even if necessary back to 1992, and that's not going to happen.